Hey everybody, what's up? How's it going? How many people have you killed this week? Come on, be truthful. Today's goth band recommendation is going to be more of a one of the most popular bands, and it has a lot to do with this video in this episode. And I do apologize for that hideous sound. It's the vents. So, the goth band recommendation today is Christian Death. The whole band kind of has the same political kind of aspect, but particularly with like the Roz Williams thing, and it has a lot to do with what this episode is going to be about. Now, I think this band, it's controversial with one of their most popular songs. There's a reason why. But aside from that, it is, Roz Williams, he has a brilliant vision, and, a lot of people say that Marilyn Manson very much ripped off from Roz Williams, which, when you kind of look at the two and two together, you can kind of see it, but, it's kind of how music is in general, but, Marilyn Manson can be cool, but, I definitely prefer the Christian Death, Roz Williams, so there you go. So today's video is going to be political, and the reason why is because I have this subscriber, and I don't know if they'll be subscribing after this video, but they made this comment on one of my other videos I did last week, saying please don't be woke, don't be political, stuff like that. And they also said in their comment, they don't really know much about the goth subculture, really, but they really like, the look and stuff like that. So I kind of want to give into some light. First of all, I don't like to talk about politics, and, a lot of us don't, but the reality is we kind of have to at this point, in life in general, we kind of have to. And especially in the goth subculture, it is very much, at least these days, a very interesting and debate about whether or not goth is political or not, right? And that is something that we're going to be talking about. So if you're interested in listening to what I have to say about this, keep watching. If not, then, maybe this video isn't for you. So, yeah. I want to keep in mind that not all of my videos are going to be political and stuff like that, but this is something that I really do want to get out of my chest and talk about. And, when there are things that needs to be talked about, I feel, for my channel at least, to be true to itself, and for me to be true to myself, and for all of us around each other, we, do need to talk about these things at least from time to time, So, just want to point that out. Okay, so to understand the political statement in goth, right, we have to understand that goth musically, it came from punk, right? And punk, the very thing about punk, what makes punk music so raw and so beautifully in itself was, the way it was formed with the political views, with the rebellion, the part of, hey, why do we have to do this like this? Why do we have to fit into this normality of life? And, goth very much came from that. And a lot of music came from that, not just punk. A lot of rock music came from that. A lot of metal music, especially metal music nowadays, comes from that, and punk was really one of those things that, when something needed to be talked about, punk really brought it up in the thing, and, a lot of people didn't like that, but, that's the reality of it, and, that is something that, it does go into the goth subculture, and there's this quote by Aurelio Voltaire that I heard during a documentary about goths called like Vampire Goth Nation, right? And the quote that he said was, punks see, oh my god, it's kind of hard to describe it outside of my mind, but punks, the way that punk is, they look at the world, the tragedies, the brutality of the world, and they're pissed off, right? They're angry about what's going on with this world, so they express it in a very rebellious, angrily way, right? And goth looks at that too. Goth looks at the tragedies of the world, the death, the murder, and they kind of take that into, sing about that in like kind of like a sad, emotional way, or in a spooky, disturbing way, like Nick Fiend or Christian Death, and you also got to look at death rock. The death rock is like the very much in between of punk and goth music, and Christian Death, of course, Specimen, 45 Grave, talking, about why so-and-so, like people in the gay community, people in the LGBTQ community are getting blamed for all this stuff when in the reality, when you look at it, it's these pastors and these priests that everybody is looking up to that are doing it behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of like a lot of, like, an example of what a lot of goth music would talk about. Goth music, punk music. And something I notice is when, these debates kind of come up about whether goth is political or not. And a lot of people, especially a lot of the people that try to, like, excuse it for it to be not political, they always say, oh, well, goth is a music subculture, it's not an aesthetic, it's, the group of those people that invaded all those countries years ago, when, at that point you kind of can tell that they're wrong in their statement, because that all is political right there. That whole, the goths from the medieval early times that would invade other countries and stuff, that whole thing is a political topic and a political story, right? Like, that is something to, you can kind of tell, they really don't know what they're talking about. Where does the political statement kind of get into the goth, like, visually and stuff like that? Aside from the music, right? Well, a lot of it, you can really think the whole satanic panic situation going on between the 80s and the 90s, where anything that was outside of the regular Christian norm was considered satanic or, dangerous and evil and stuff like that. You see it in the movies, you see it on the news, you see all these news channels, or with the situations of Columbine. You see the situation of Rod Farrell, these people that kind of, the media really takes it a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, the whole Vampire Masquerade game that was being played a lot in the 90s that, I think his name is Rod Farrell, kind of took part of with his friends and killed his girlfriend's parents and stuff like that, a lot of people took that, and kind of blamed it on everybody who's remotely odd looking, and, it was also in these other TV shows, these talk shows where people would, bring goths, punks, metalheads into these shows and try to normalicize, I don't know if that's a word, try to make them normal, I guess, by insulting them. The crowd is insulting them, the talk show host is insulting them, and all this other stuff. And, half the time, the people that, are disguised as alternative, they really aren't, and they're, kind of just disguised for that. And when there's actual goths and there's actual punks and alternative people going on these talk shows to be like, yo, this is not what we do, you kind of get shunned down upon, and learns really quickly that's not really a good idea. And there's so many examples. So many YouTubers, would talk about experiences where, they were discriminated against, they were, beaten and stuff because of their appearance and because of their alternative lifestyle, right? And that is another part that comes into play with this, why political discussions is very much important, at least in this goth subculture, right? In general, as a normal human being, as unfortunate as all of us don't like talking about politics, this is something that does have to be talked about, because if it's not, then people that still, do these horrible things to another person simply because they're alternative looking, or because they're not the same color as them or the same sex as them, they need to be stopped. And that's why we have these political talks. And, a lot of the reasons why political stuff is very much gotten stronger within the goth subculture and all of the alternative subcultures was because of the satanic panic, It would, back in those days, it would be perfectly fine for, full-grown adults to be physically assaulting these teenagers because they looked different, and there's actual cases of it, they would get away with it, and that, that is something, we need to talk about in order to make it stop, right? And perhaps the biggest reason and the biggest example of why political discussions in the goth subculture is very important is Sophie Lancaster. Now, if you don't know who Sophie Lancaster is, I'm going to talk to you about it a little bit. She was a goth, and her boyfriend, were living in Ireland, Lancaster, Ireland, UK area, and they were jumped. Well, not jumped, but like ganged up by a group of what we as Americans would call normal people. I guess they call them chavs over in that area, but over here we would call them normal, basically normal people. Conservatives, basically, if you want to call it like that, is what we would call it. But, they were ganged up on, beaten, left for dead, basically, from autopsy reports and stuff. It was described that Sophie, she was kicked so hard in the head that you basically could kick a football, it was that kind of strength, and they were both hospitalized, both Robert and Sophie Lancaster. And while Robert, he eventually woke up, but not without brain damage and a lot of memory loss. Not like full-term memory loss, but like couldn't exactly remember what happened that night and stuff at first. And, he was able to recover a little bit, awake and stuff. But Sophie Lancaster, after weeks and stuff, she ended up not surviving it. They had to pull the plug on her because she wasn't going to wake up. And, it went from a typical assault case to a murder case, basically. And, the whole entire reason why these two people were assaulted and beaten near to death, basically, is because they were goths. And, I remember watching a couple documentaries, and I was watching this one, and from what I heard is, at first when Rob got the news that his girlfriend, Sophie, wasn't going to be able to make it and stuff, it didn't fully click into his head until the funeral, or after she was dead, that he's never going to see her again. And that's a messed up thing. That's very messed up, and it's very tear dropping and very sad. It's kind of making me tear up a little bit right now. But Sophie's mother, I forgot her name. I think it's I'm sorry, I forgot her name, but Sophie's mother basically made it her life mission to not only make it considered a hate crime in the UK, but also in the entire world, where discrimination, physical assault against people who are alternative, goths, would be considered a hate crime. And luckily for the UK, and I'm pretty sure most of Europe, she did manage to get that with the fundraisers, with the local fundraisers for the Sophie fundraiser. And that is perfect, and it's really cool. But an unfortunate thing is, because I was looking into it yesterday, and from what I found, in America at least, it is still very much not considered a hate crime if someone were to go up to you and assault you based on, you being a goth, a metalhead, emo, stuff like that. It's not considered a hate crime here, unfortunately. There are discrimination situations you can file for in the States, but unfortunately, I'm pretty sure a hate crime is not one of those. And it's unfortunate because, it is something that should be considered a hate crime, but it's not here in America. And it was Sophie's mother's life mission to kind of make it around this whole world considered, put under the terms of the hate crime, and, get people to understand that, alternative people are actual people. We're not just these satanic worshippers, ready to butcher children and everything. We're not those kind of people. We're just normal people that happen to look a little different and have a different taste in music than the normal folks do. I could go on and on about reasons as to why political discussions and politics does have a part into the goth subculture, but I think I'm making my point in the fact that we need to do it in order to keep not only us, but the people around us that we love and admire safe. The stuff that's happening in my country right now, from all the stuff that's going around, these innocent people being deported and stuff like that. It's unfortunate and very sad, and the only way for things to be changed is for everybody in this world to talk about it, and boycotting and stuff like that. And I think I understand where this commenter, subscriber, is coming from, in the sense they don't I understand nobody likes talking about politics, and I think that if the politics would do their job in keeping the world in a happy place, then we wouldn't really have to talk about politics. But the unfortunate reality is it's so much more difficult than said than done. You have the whole Palestine events going on with Israel, and anyone who really talks about that kind of subject, no matter what side that you're on, even though, for the majority of all of us, we just want people to not be killed. We don't want people to be butchered. We don't like people to be killed over stupid war reasons, right? And, people left and right would be, shut down, fired from their jobs, like Melissa Barrera from the Scream franchise, when she first talked about it, she ended up getting fired from, being able to be in Scream 7, and I understand where a lot of people are coming from when they don't want to talk about politics, because, you know, it's, they can be afraid. It can be scary talking about politics. It can be terrifying, especially, you know, you don't know if the person that's your best friend standing next to you, you know, you might be thinking, hey, that's not right for, you know, these things to be happening to the LGBTQ community, right? To the trans rights and everything, right? While the person next to you, you know, they're thinking the complete opposite. They think, you know, we all should be sent off to camps and everything like that. And it's unfortunate. You know, we're afraid of that happening, of our loved ones turning against us. But the reality is, we have to talk about these things. We have to talk about the things that are going wrong with this country, with this world. And, you know, there might be things that will happen to us, you know. We might get assaulted from these negative people, but, you know, the more we use our voices and the more we talk about it and the more, you know, we kind of act in this way, the more people will listen to us. And you know, I hope that this particular subscriber kind of learns something with this video and would stay on my channel. But, you know, if you don't want to stay on my channel, I understand. You know, I'm not going to make every video a political video. I'm not going to talk about politics and stuff like that every video of mine. But, you know, when something is happening, you know, like the whole TikTok situation that was happening, you know, I feel the need to talk about it, you know. And I'm sorry, but if it's considered woke, then this ain't the channel for you. And, you know, I want this channel to be safe for goths. I want it to be safe for metalheads, emos. I want it to be safe for the LGBT community. I want it to be safe for my black friends, my Latino friends, my friends from all around the world, my Native American friends, you know. I want, you know, this to be a safe space for everyone that deserves it, you know. And the people that are, you know, purposely trying to make it to where, you know, all of us, you know, people that aren't this, I'm sorry to get into specifics, but anyone that's considered, that's not in the realms of a white, Christian, straight male that's full of money, you know, to be looked at as trash. And that's not what this page is going to be about. You know, we're gonna love the different people. Sorry. We're gonna love the different people. We're gonna love, you know, ourselves, the humanity, the goth subculture, you know, and that's what this channel is going to be about. So I do apologize if this ain't the channel for you, then, you know, you can go ahead and unsubscribe. I don't care. But I hope, you know, you watch this video and you think, hey, now I kind of understand. You know, there's reasons why things are happening, and there's reasons why people are speaking out political stuff, is because, you know, stuff, especially right now, that's happening is not right. So that's what I think about this whole situation. And I hate that it's a negative type of video and stuff, so I do apologize for that. But aside from that, I hope, yeah. So, thank you guys for watching this video. Sorry for the rant. It's just something that you know, I needed to get off my chest. So, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and if I get new subscribers, cool. If I lose some subscribers over this, then, you know, it just wasn't meant to be. So, thank you, goodbye, and I'll see you guys next time. Boom.